Perfection exists only when it's simple in and out of way.
That's when it's really visible. If that repeated, it's from staring the same way across different years.
Welcome back to The Explainer. We're diving into a story about a man who solved a problem that nobody even knew existed. And then he just vanished. But this isn't your typical missing person case. Oh no, it's something way, way stranger. So let's just chew on that question for a second. We're not talking about a criminal on the run or a spy going dark. We're talking about a mathematician. And, when a person who lives their entire life by predictable patterns suddenly shatters their own, you have to wonder what on earth could make them do that. Because, see, he wasn't running from some crime he committed. He wasn't trying to escape his past. The truth is, a whole lot more unsettling. He was running because he stumbled upon a pattern in the chaos of the world, a pattern he was never, ever supposed to see. So who was this guy? Well, you've probably never heard his name. He wasn't famous. He was just this brilliant, totally predictable academic. You know the type, way more comfortable with a piece of chalk and a quiet blackboard than with being in any kind of spotlight. Everything about him, his personality, his work, it all sets the stage for this whole mystery. He was quiet, intensely private, and he had this core belief that numbers were, pure, neutral. But his specialty is the key to everything. Error correction. And what is error correction? Well, it's basically the math behind systems that are built to expect failure. Think about it. Your phone silently fixing a typo as you text? That's error correction. A massive shipping network automatically rerouting a package to avoid a storm? Same thing. These are systems that just assume mistakes will happen, and they quietly, automatically, fix them. Hold on to that word, fix. So, his whole journey down this rabbit hole, it started with maybe the most boring job you can imagine. He wasn't hired to uncover some grand conspiracy. He was hired to do a routine audit. That's it. That was the entire job description. They handed him decades of historical data, market trends, public policy results, you name it, and just said, tell us if it all adds up. Just a totally normal, unglamorous gig. But that's exactly where he found it, the anomaly. And this is the first little crack he found in reality. See, in any complex system with millions of human beings making messy, greedy, random decisions, there should be chaos, right? Markets should crash harder. Policies should fail more spectacularly. But in the data he was looking at, they didn't. Instead, things always seemed to drift back toward this stable, predictable center, almost like they were being guided by some kind of invisible hand. And that invisible hand led him to the pattern itself. He knew that in any normal system, tiny errors and random noise are supposed to build up over time. But he was seeing the exact opposite. Every single major deviation from the norm was being quietly and inevitably corrected. He realized pretty fast that what he was looking at wasn't some fancy way to predict the future. No, this was something much more active. He gave it a name, containment. He described it as this terrifying mathematical framework that, well, it gives us the illusion of freedom, but only within these pre-approved limits. If anything strays too far outside that range, it gets this quiet, subtle nudge back into line. No flashing lights, no alarms, just a correction. Think of a protest that just kind of fizzles out, not because of force, but because of a string of small, seemingly unrelated setbacks. That's the nudge. So here's the bottom line. This wasn't about forecasting what might happen. It was about ensuring what does happen. It was a system of invisible mathematical control. But then, at some point, the math stopped being just some abstract puzzle on a blackboard. It became personal. It became a threat. And this is the moment that changed everything for him. He understood that this system, it doesn't care about people, not about presidents or protesters or CEOs. It doesn't target individuals, it targets variance. See, to the system, a revolutionary new idea and a stock market crash are the exact same problem. They both create unpredictable waves. And its one and only job is to keep the water perfectly still. This was his last message to the world. A cryptic warning he uploaded and then deleted just minutes later. I mean, just think about what that implies. The simple act as of observing the system makes you an anomaly. By finding the pattern, you yourself become an unacceptable deviation, and the system, well, now it has to correct you. And that's why he had to run. He wasn't being hunted by men in black suits. To the system,
He was just a rounding error that needed to be fixed. He wasn't a person anymore. He was a probability liability.
So his disappearance, it wasn't a desperate, panicked escape. No, it was a calculated move, a mathematical decision. It was his own desperate attempt at error correction. And the evidence shows just how cold and precise it was. His apartment wasn't just emptied, it was basically sterilized. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. His entire digital life, all those years of research, poof, vaporized. The university's records were even changed to show his audit never even happened. In just 72 hours, he simply ceased to exist.
And this quote from one of the few friends he had says it all, doesn't it? This wasn't a man running scared. This was a man with a plan, racing against an invisible clock that only he could hear, playing a game against an opponent he could never see.
Which brings us to the big strategic question behind everything he did. How in the world do you fight an enemy that automatically neutralizes any move you make against it? Well, you don't fight it head on, that's for sure. You have to become a ghost. You move in ways the system can't model, you live on the absolute edge of its boundaries, just outside its tolerance for what it needs to fix. And most importantly, you never ever draw attention to yourself. Because the system doesn't need to destroy you, it just needs to adjust you. And that is the chilling question we're left with. If there really is a system out there, quietly nudging our world back into some acceptable range, who or what wrote the definition of acceptable? And that's where we're headed next time, when all of this stops being theoretical and starts getting very, very dangerous.